Hello, I'm LaToya Matthews, and welcome to my show. Today we're doing Sewing 101. Yep, that's right. We're doing basic sewing. You see this dress that I'm wearing right now? This will be the dress that we're making today. It's a simple, basic dress that's made in the basic form that I always use, the tube style dress, except I made it over one shoulder and I put some elastic on the side to make the ruching. It's going to be easy. So sit back and relax and let's get to stitching. Okay, now we're going to make that dress. Now a lot of people always saying, where do I get my designs from? A lot of times it's just in a vision that I have, but in order for me to carry it out, a lot of times I make sketches. So you take a look right here, and this is what I did. I sketched out the dress, and then I looked through magazines to find something similar that had that draping effect, because that's what really enhances the dress, is the draping. So let's get started. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to make my pattern. And again, I always tell you to find something that fits you the way that you would like for the dress to fit. And I always use the same dress. This is a dress that I had for a wedding, and I know it fits me perfectly. So for the bottom half of the dress across the hip line, I want this dress because it hugs really nicely. So I'm going to lay my dress down here. Now for the top portion, I wanted that slant here. So I have a blouse that I made quite a while back that has that slanting effect on it. And I'm going to use this to cut out the top portion of the dress. And as I, again, always line up the armholes on the dress. Now that would match up both sides of the pattern. That way I know without a doubt the ratio from my armhole to my shoulder is correct. Okay? Now again, with my sewing, everything is very basic and simple. I don't make anything complicated, and I don't make anything that you can't make within an hour or so. Even if you're a beginner, all of my patterns are like 1, 2, 3. So what I'm going to do, normally I'll use some type of chalk that's erasable to trace out my fabric, but because it's a white chalk, it won't show up on this. So I'm using a Sharpie. It doesn't bleed through. Now this is some knit stretch fabric, which would have it a nice little flow and draping effect for the dress. So I'm going to start out first by tracing my dress, and I'm going to allow about 2 inches seam allowance on both sides because I want it to be a little larger for the ruching so it can really drape nicely. So I'm just going to start right here. This is where my armhole is, and I'm going to draw a straight line. And the hip area, we're going to go in, and we're just going to trace all the way around. And I don't want my dress as long as this one because I want it a little shorter. And on this side, it's off the shoulder to one end. So I'm going to come around here for off the shoulder and just trace around. And come out with that 2-inch seam allowance. And remember, always make it a little larger because you can always take it in, but it is extremely difficult if you're sewing something to make it larger if you cut it out too small. And a lot of times it's just best to start all over instead of even trying to do that. Okay, and that's it. That's my pattern at the top, at the bottom. Now I have to get the top part. I'm going to take this dress off because I'm through with that. I'm going to line back up my armholes here. And I'm just going to draw going straight across here. It's a very simple dress, but once I have it on, nobody will ever know that this was a 1, 2, 3 dress. Okay, and that's it. Now, I want to measure, I want my dress to be about 23 inches. So I'm going to use my tape here. And we can just, for instance, I'm going to show you what this dress is. From my armhole down, how long this dress is. And you can decide upon yourself the length of your dress. With this one here, it's 32 inches. So that's a bit long. 32 inches on my body, it goes right around the knee area. With this dress, I want it to go around the thigh. So I'm going to do about 26 inches for this one, for me. So I measure here, 26 inches. It's very simple. Like I told you, everything that you do in Sewing 101 is very simple. It's no brain surgery, anything of that nature. And then if you're really curious to how 26 inches or whatever length, measure yourself. And I know with me, 26 inches is right where my fingers are from my body. But everybody's different. So take your measuring tape and measure what length you would like. Or if you're using a dress that has the exact same length, that's even easier for you. And now, only thing I'm going to do is just to cut it out. Now, I'm using a stretch knit, which I would advise anyone who's beginning sewing to use knit. The reason why I use a knit fabric is because any type of flaws that you have, especially if it's a little tight or whatever, with the stretch, it always stretches over. So it'll hide any imperfections that you may have. Now on this print, I'm using a leopard animal print, which is good because, again, because this is a busy print, it'll hide any imperfections that I have. But you know that animal print is really popular this season. Okay, and I'm cutting it out. Now I know that this dress is actually about 2 inches too large on both sides. So that's about a 4-inch. And I know what I want. I want it to fit around the hip area snugly, but every other place I want it to be a little larger because I want it to drape. And with a draping effect, what I'm going to do to get that effect is I'm going to use some elastic. Okay, now with this armhole here, I want the arm to be a little bit more drastic. So I'm going to make it a little longer. And how am I going to do that? Simple. I'm just going to fold over this. I'm going to cut this where it gets even at right here. There we are. And that. I'm going to cut this off. And I'm going to attach those two right there. You'll see, it's very simple. Everything that I do on Sewing 101, it's like 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's that. And I'm going to even this portion up here because it's just going to be a little strip I'm putting on the side of the dress to enhance it. And I'm just evening it up. So whatever you do on one side, always do it on the other side. Okay, and that's that. So basically, if you take a look, this is our dress right here. And for me, I know it's a little wide across here, but I'm going to rouge it up and then I'm going to taper it in. Okay, so now let's get to stitching. Okay, as you can see, this is the basic dress here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew around and sew up all of my seams on everything. Now, I gave about 2 inches seam allowance on both sides because I wanted to have a draping effect right here. But I'm going to sew an inch seam allowance on both sides. That way it will give me 2 inches because an inch and an inch is 2. So let's get started. This right here is a really nice party dress. I'm going to have a great time tonight in it. Everything that I make on Sewing 101 is something that you can sew up in the daytime and wear in the evening. I don't make anything that's going to take you all day long to make. And if you're a beginner, You never have to feel intimidated by any of the designs that I have, because everything that I make is a basic pattern. A basic, as I would say, just think of it as a pillowcase, that you have an armhole here. You have a neck hole and 2 armholes, and that's it. And every design I have is a variation of that form. If you use a dress that you're very comfortable with, that fits you perfectly, use the same dress all the time. That way you'll actually know the proportions on what you need to cut out. I always use that same purple dress because I know it fits me perfectly. Whenever you're dressing your fabric, make sure that you have your needle down. That way your fabric will not slip. I love using stretch fabric. I love it because it gives so much and it's so easy to use. A lot of those other fabrics that don't give, those fabrics that are not knit, they don't give. So you have to be exact. With stretch fabric, you can be off an inch or 2 and it doesn't matter because it's stretching. Okay, I told you I wanted the sleeve extended just a little bit. Well, this is the portion I'm going to use to extend my sleeve. Now, all you have to do is match it up right side to right side. If you match it up right side to right side, when you stitch it, you see, it'll be identical. And since this is such a busy pattern, you won't even be able to tell us a seam there. So I'm going to match it up here and here. And I'm going to sew it up. And the next seam, I'll pin it down for you for sure. Because I just want to show you how to do it just in case. But for me, like I said, I just zoomed through it on these dresses. Now, whenever we make some pants, we have to be a bit more detailed. But with these dresses, with the box pattern, it's like 1, 2, 3, and you're done. Okay, let's get it lined up here, and we're ready. With this sleeve on my arm, I'm going to taper it, but that's during the alteration process. Right now, we're just putting a basic dress together. On all of this, just remember to match up your seams and sew. Match up your seams and sew. And since it's your design, there's no right or wrong way to do anything. As long as you feel comfortable with the finished product, that's all that matters. A lot of times I sketch my patterns out so I can stay on track. Because a lot of times when I get to changing things, that's where the time comes in. That's when it consumes a lot of my time. Is when I decide, oh no, I don't want that here. Oh, I want to tuck here. I want to pleat there. But as long as I stay on track, I have no problem making a complete garment within 30 minutes to an hour. And once you start sewing, you'll know exactly what you like, what design that really enhances your figure. Because when you wear it, everybody will compliment you. And whatever design it is, that's the pattern that you should use on a regular basis. Because you can use the exact same pattern. If you use a different fabric, it'll come out different. Okay, now on this next seam, I'm going to show you how to pin it down.